Hello, dear students. Very warm welcome from Dr. Zia Ahmed for his YouTube channel. And once again, today we are going to record a poem by Shadab Zeest. This is very much in demand. And the title of the poem is Ghazal for the Girl in the Photo. So this title goes to show that something important is relevant to the photo of the girl and something has happened there. In fact, we should remember that Shadab Zeest belonged to Peshawar, Pakistan. She was brought up there, and therefore she's got a special liking and appreciation for the country Pakistan. But she is also thinking about the kind of refugees that came from Afghanistan to Pakistan during the wars and battles which were fought between various sections or the parties of Afghanistan. And at that time of war, number of important and good things and beautiful things happened. For example, in the refugee camp, one American whose name is Steve McCurry, he appeared in the camp and he was able to make a photograph of one girl who looked and appeared very beautiful. And the special thing about that girl was her eyes, which were of green color. And he was surprised to see that. And you know, people, he was given an award. He became world famous person because of that photo. Now, he was thinking, who is that person because of which he became famous? Who's that girl because of which he became famous? And there were lots of comments on the photo of that small, beautiful girl, Afghan girl especially. And therefore, he tried to find her once again. And he was able to locate one person in Afghanistan, which exactly remembered various indicators, her eyes, and many other things indicated that she is the same one. And when the name was asked, she told that her name is Sharbat Gula. That means that she is the scent, she is the water of the flowers. So this is the story behind this poem, the background behind this poem. And Shadab Zeest takes the opportunity to talk more about that girl, the problems associated with that girl, the beauties associated with that girl, the history associated with that girl, colonialism and post-colonialism, the modern new American colonialism associated with that. All these things she tries to talk through the picture. It is just like looking at a photograph and then talking or making a story out of that. But that story is not that beautiful, it's not that simple. It is painful, it is tragic also, and reminds us number of bad things which happened to the people of Afghanistan and people of Pakistan also because of these wars. Here, my purpose is not to condemn war in that sense, as I should condemn all the time, but actually, I want to say people and armies fight, nations fight, but there are the people, the innocent people who are crushed with that. Most of the time, the innocent, the poor, the elderly, the women, and the children are the war victims. And here is the celebration of such a war victim. It is to remind, I call it celebration because it is to remind all of the people that, okay, wars are going on because of any reasons, but what we are losing, the beauty, the kindness, the nature that created, which is being lost. And that's crying in the shape of that photograph, in the shape of that eyes of that girl. It is crying to tell us that something wrong is there. So Shadab is this ghazal, apparently simply a ghazal, but actually it's a very big message that the people who fight war, they must see who is being destroyed because of that. And maybe, possibly, sometime peace would prevail, happiness and security would prevail instead of the fear of the war upon the innocent people may prevail. So let us see in the poem what does the poet say about whole of this poem. And I introduce the starting lines of the poem. It say, you became the girl with piercing eyes when you found your country swiped by a stranger. In Kabul now, snow a missile turned your mother into coal. Your last tears were wiped by a stranger. So the very first opening lines of the poem tell us about the condition of the girl, that she was all alone and she was looking at the people around her, and as she found out that her mother is dead, although there was snow all around, but because of the heat or the heatness of the weapon and the bullets which came and they killed her mother, even if cold was there, but she was roasted, and this girl started to weep and her tears were wiped out by a stranger. So the first two lines that we have read end in the word stranger. So there are two people which are very important. One is the girl as a child, and later on when she grows up. Another one is stranger. Till the end of the poem, we do not find who the stranger is. In fact, the poet wants to give the indication that for such children who are left alone, their parents are killed in the war or in other calamities at that time, they definitely are left alone. Somebody is required to wipe their tears, otherwise they will be still more left alone. So that is why one stranger is there. Not the Harun people are there to wipe her tears, but the stranger is there. Now, this stranger can be an American soldier, this stranger can be a distant relative, this stranger can also be just a humanitarian, and this stranger can be simply the poet as well. So that is the painful picture that the poet is painting in the very beginning, that a young beautiful girl who has the piercing eyes is very much upset and is weeping because her mother is dead. Even the wintry season, in the wintry season, she's dead, and the child is weeping, and somebody who is called here stranger, that person has come to wipe her tears. And now let us enter into the second part of this poem. Your eyes teach how cold flint ignites a flare, how a father's bones become an orphan's roof. History writes itself clear as cornea. Your green glare, no whitewashing, no hype as stranger. These two lines come to the focus on the eyes of the girl because she's got such beautiful eyes, but when she is witnessing death and horror around her, her eyes become flint like, her eyes become fiery like, her eyes become something which is asking a question: why this war, why this death and cruelty? And the poet further enhances this idea by letting us know that her father was also killed, she became orphan, she became a part of history, her father became part of history, and she was looking at the people with green glare. And that's the color which would definitely have some anger, some bitterness, some kind of violence in the eyes, and asking a question, putting to the question why something is happening. And the question is being asked in the end of the first four lines, that okay, something, whatever has happened, everything is being cleared, but no hype is stranger, that nothing whichever is happening around that girl, nothing which is that's very violent, which is very intolerable, that is happening around the girl, it is not stopping, it is everywhere. So fire, greenness of the eyes, of the color of that girl, and the kind of activity which was taking place at that time, all these things combined together in order to create the anger, the dislike, the hate in the eyes of the girl for the people who have killed her parents and who have, because of whom she has been left alone. Same is the case with the green lines below, when the poet says, pity the empire that failed to decipher the disdain in your eyes, the hard stare of war, pity the first words, pity the promise of the friends who show up in every type of stranger. Now, the poet takes another turn by letting us know that although the girl had green eyes and she was staring at the people, and she can be looked in her photographs to be staring, but nobody could understand. Even the empire, which takes itself to be very important, very much dominating, very much intellectual, very much civilized, this empire was even unable to realize the disdain, the hatred, the dislike which was available in the eyes of that girl. And that stare, the hard stare, could not be understood by the people who were fighting the war. The first word, which is called the civilized, the cultured word, nobody could understand. So the poet feels sad for that. Why they couldn't understand that? Why they couldn't realize that? Even when they had given a big prize on that photograph, but they couldn't find out what is the message of the eyes of the girl. The promise of friends who show up as every type of stranger. So the girl is witnessing many people who come close to her as friends, but they are mostly the strangers. They're not her people, but everyone is looking at her, but no one is able to realize. That's why the poet says that the pity should be felt for such people who are not realizing this kind of thing. And then the last lines of the poem that are in blue color, they say the poet herself comes forward by using her name in that. Zeest return to the arms of memory, the riddle of minefield, velvet lullabies, to the tilt of this land, its lyrical storms, its bells and bagpipes, you are no stranger. Zeus addresses to herself by saying, in fact, she is addressing to all of her listeners by saying that she should not forget what was present in this world of Peshawar, in the world of this whole province, in the world of Afghanistan, what was that present. She says that she has to remember or remind herself, and she calls it as the arms of her memory, because these things can keep the things fresh in her mind and would not let her forget the condition of the children like Gula, whoever she was when she grown up, all these things will be remembered only because of her memory. And when she has put her memory into the words, and that will be remembered by all the world. This is one of the best efforts made by the poet. The riddle of its minefields, velvet levies, to the tilt of this land. So everything is, on the one hand, there are the minefields. On the other hand, there are the lullabies. On the other hand, the land is going on and is carrying certain things which are, for example, lyrical storms. I mean, poetry, I mean, music, I mean, everything like that is there. The bells and bagpipes are there. These things are not stranger to the poet. So that's why the poet would continue to sing like that. Though this small girl who was present at that time, when her parents were killed, at that time she was present just like a child, very small child, but with the passage of time she grew up. Her childhood finished. She became an individual, but the childhood carried the memories which were bitter memories, and against which her eyes was reflecting something, but nobody could understand. That is the very message. That's the very thing that the capitalist, that the powerful, that the empirical forces do not understand what is happening to the people because of the cruelties committed in the name of, whatever you may call it, war, or the ambition, or the desire to rule, or whatever it is going to be. This has been happening all the time in this world and is continuing, and the poet has relived all the incident which took place. But ultimately, the poem gives the very best message in the end of the poem by saying that the land of these people has a very beautiful music, it has very beautiful songs, very beautiful things in it, very beautiful sounds and pictures, and that must be reminded along with the memory of these sufferings. These should be kept alive as well. So that is why we find something very beautiful inside the poem. One thing more in the poem is very significant. For example, if you look at the endings of every line, you see the word stranger is present in the end of the first two lines, and then in the end of the fourth line, and then in the end of the sixth line, then in the end of the eighth line, and ultimately the word stranger is present in the end of the poem as well. So in that way, the ending is same of every set of lines, the word stranger. Not only the sound therefore makes it same, but also the word is same, and in that way a particular emphasis is present on the word stranger, probably to give the color of a ghazal, because most of the time we have one or two words which are repeated in the girls in the ending of the lines. Same is the case here, but alongside that, the word stranger is can be interpreted in many ways. For example, for the child, for example, this word is a stranger word because the child has come on nature in order to celebrate happiness, in order to feel good, in order to enjoy her life. And we people have made it really very, very difficult. And that's why the possibility is that for the child, the word is stranger, or the child is stranger for the word. Same is the case with the word stranger in another sense, that when the people from outside, the colonizer, the new colonizer, come and try to colonize or attempt to colonize the people which are weaker than them at that time, the play of other and us continues. And stranger here can be both. It can be the invader as well, it can be the person who's there, but still the role of the stranger is there inside the poem that has been talked about. Students can interpret the word stranger in many ways. For example, when they compare it with the other poems of Shadab, they may be able to find out more meanings about the stranger. And alongside that, we also have the symbol of green eyes, the green color, that can be interpreted in the terms of colors, whatever the meaning of those colors give. If some people are having the kind of color in their eyes, possibly their personality is also reflected that. But the color of the eyes of this girl is reflective of not only the personality, but also the suffering, but also the history, but also the people among whom she lived and the suffering they had. So in that way, the eyes of the girl are re-celebrated in the same way as the maker of that photograph celebrated the eyes of that girl and came once again back, and he was able to trace the woman with the same color, same eyes, and he was able to observe that what is the change in that, and in that way the woman also became very famous in the world, and he also became famous. So that is why the poem reminds us of all this activity by that photographer and everything like that. So therefore the poem ends here. One can make the critical appreciation of the poem by talking about Zeest and her style, and after that one can talk about the summary of the poem and then put these messages in an explanatory form about these lines, and then talk about the starting of the poem, the middle of the poem, the end of the poem, the girl, the woman, and ultimately the message of the poet, and then go for also talking about this word stranger, which is repeated here and there. Talk about the style that's described as ghazal, for example, at the very beginning. And this is a type of continuous ghazal, that is the type of thing done in that. Musalsal or continuous is the kind of form of ghazal talked about here. Well, it may not be exactly same in the tone of the Ghalib's ghazals or many other, but still it's a ghazal, it's a song, and that reminds us many beautiful things which are related with war as well. So try to relate with that as well. Talk about the words, the kind of sounds which we have, or the memory, or the things which are good and bad about this war, about the people of that area. If you talk everything like that, definitely critical appreciation would be quite good. So here I stop. Thank you for watching all that. I hope that some of the things have been understood. Some may still need more inquiry into the poem to be understood. Well, in that way, more things will come with the passage of time. But so far, thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you again. Till that time, keep happy, keep peaceful, and keep healthy as well. Thank you.